Keith, aka Gator Guy 231. It is Monday, July 13th, and we are breaking down a Manchester United versus Southampton showdown of the month on DraftKings. $135,000 prize pool. I almost said $135,000 to first. That will be the day. But $135,000 prize pool, $15 entry. It is the biggest one, I think, since the first game back, which was like the City versus Arsenal. But anyhow, should be fun. It's funny, like a couple months ago, if you told me that we had a Manchester United showdown, I'd be like, oh gosh, like they were awful to play, pre-December. But Bruno Fernandes showed up, United turned the corner, and honestly, they're one of the more fun DFS teams to play at this point. And I think this would be an interesting one. I think there's some pretty obvious ways that you can go. So, the person that's going to win this GPP is really going to have to kind of change it up. I think almost everybody's going to want to do a United stack, but the question is, how can you stack it in a unique way so that you can get that $25,000 to first? And I'll go over some few ideas for that. So as always, let's jump into, the odds and the formation, and we'll go from there. So just a quick reminder, please hit the subscribe button at the right if you enjoy these videos. Tell you what, sports is about to get insane, and the FSI YouTube channel is going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be covering all the sports, different varieties of short little videos from our heads of content from each of those sports. So you're going to want to check it out. All of that will be free previews. We hope that you guys will like it. All right, so Manchester United at home is a -344 favorite. Southampton away, plus 823. We have a 3 total. And obviously, we're going to start on the United side because I think that's obviously as a -344 favorite where all of your decision-making is going to go. The first question on the site that you're going to answer is, are you captaining Bruno Fernandes? I think in cash, the answer is obviously yes. In GPP, that might be the route that you have to go to change up your construction. So let's just quickly go over why Bruno Fernandes at captain is so obvious. Since coming to United, he does not have a game that is not in double digits, which is just insane to think about. But in the last 3 games alone, he has 4 goals, 3 assists. Just listen to these logs. It's just gross. 25.8, 40.1, 33.4. And if you want to go back one more, 11.6 versus Sheffield, which is his low with United. So that's still a goal, guys. 11.6 is still a goal. 29.7, 16.8. You get the picture. I'm taking all of United's sets. For some reason versus Bournemouth, Rashford took a penalty. I don't know if it's just to try to get Rashford confidence, and that's just kind of how they thought about Bournemouth. It was funny. I think at the time they thought they were cruising, and Bournemouth scored another, and it got a little bit tighter. But he's back to taking PKs. He took one last game. So yeah, I think that he's just the easy lock and captain spot for cash. Then the biggest decision on the slate is going to be what 2 routes you go. So if you look at builds, you can go 1 attacker. So you can go Martial, Rashford, or Greenwood, all of which are great, and all of which are going to need a goal here to do anything. And, with a 3 total and a -344 favorite, you should see the goal, right? I don't think this is going to be the Southampton performance versus City. I don't think United's going to struggle to put 1 or 2 past McCarthy. But, do you go Greenwood, who is the most in form of the bunch? Let's just quickly talk about Greenwood. So in the last 3 games, he also has 4 goals, 1 assist. And those games, 20.3, 26.4, 16.3. He is just kind of the talk of the pundit world. With United linked to Jadon Sancho, the conversation's now becoming, does United really need Jadon Sancho? Think about saying that in December. United is this close to pulling off one of the top young players in the world. And now we're not only talking about, do they need to do it, but we're do this. United want to add that type of talent to the mix and have that decision. Amazing how things change. But Greenwood looked awesome. So yeah, I think he's going to be super popular. And the decision for him, to me in cash, the decision is Greenwood or Rashford. And I don't know. I still think Rashford has a better floor, but obviously it's hard to toss away or overlook Greenwood's form. I do think from a matchup standpoint, I trust Ryan Bertrand a little bit more than I trust Kyle Walker-Peters. Like Kyle Walker-Peters is on loan from Spurs, who didn't have like another right back outside of Serge Aurier at the time, yet they still let Kyle Walker-Peters go. So I think that says a little bit about things. So I'm probably the fish that I'm still going to lean Rashford than Greenwood, but I still have plenty of Greenwood in the showdown of the month GPP. Let's talk about Marcus Rashford. So, he had 11.7 without a goal or assist versus Villa, 19.4 with the PK goal versus Bournemouth. So, about 7.4 floor, 4.9 versus Brighton, and then 2 assists versus Sheffield for 20.7 DK. I still think from just an overall talent and DFS standpoint, I think Rashford's the better play than Greenwood. But guys, we're splitting hairs in these decisions, and unfortunately, these are the same decisions that are going to potentially make or break you in cash. So maybe the answer is just not really a cash game slate. Maybe go search the head lobby, try to get some people that think it's a good day for a Southampton stack in cash. That would be the best matchups. Anthony Martial for me is complete GPP. I can't imagine taking him over Rashford or Greenwood. But, if Tony Martial shows up with a Hattie like he did a few games back and Rashford and Greenwood don't score, you're going to be laps ahead of the field because I think he's going to come in at half, if not a third, of the ownership of those two. 2 seconds. Sorry, mouth getting very dry. So, yeah, that's the United attack. Now, Aaron, so I think the reason I only see you taking in kind of an optimal or cash build, only taking one of that bunch is because of Paul Pogba and the fact that DraftKings decided to not adjust Paul Pogba's price. He is somehow only 6,400, despite now being back fully from injury. He's fully recovered. He's played 90 the last 2 games, and in that time, I'm trying to get my logs to pull up. Not working too well. But I'll just go off of memory. Paul Pogba scored last week. I think he finished just close to 20 DK. The game beforehand, he had an assist. It was in double digits. Sorry about that. Tech difficulties there. So, speaking of Paul Pogba, the reason that you are only taking one of these 3, in my opinion, is most likely because I think you're going to be wanting to take Paul Pogba. At 6,400, to me, he's grossly underpriced. He is coming off of 2 straight games of playing 90 minutes. In that time, he has 19.8 DK with a goal and only 1 shot on target. But, Paul Pogba, not only does he just do a lot, does he have shot to floors, but, fouls drawn, shots assisted, tackles, pretty much a true box-to-box, one of the best midfielders in the world. So at 6,400, I just think he stands out as just like way underpriced. But yeah, 19.8 with the goal, 9.9 with no goal or assist, and 10.5 with the assist in his last 3 since returning to the starting lineup. Especially when you see Matic in, just gives Pogba complete free license to be a lot more attack-minded and truly, get forward and be somewhat in attack. He's not like not pulling like a Sergio Ramos when Sergio Ramos goes forward, where he's just only seeking out, a header in the box. Paul Pogba's in there to distribute, and then has the ability to shoot outside the box. So 6,400, I really like him. Now, the other route you can go if you decide that you don't buy the Pogba hype is you can easily still take Bruno Fernandes, captain, play Marcus Rashford, and Mason Greenwood. You're left at that point with about 4,267 per player. So you can – actually, it's funny. You can still play Paul Pogba. So, honestly, on air – I may have found a build I even like better. That's crazy that pricing works. So you literally could fit Bruno Fernandes. I'm staring at this now. Bruno Fernandes, captain, Mason Greenwood, Paul Pogba, Marcus Rashford. You have 3,200 left over. So let's see what Lindelof is 3,600. You're 200 short. So at that point, you're going to be doing 2 punts, probably both on Southampton. But there's a popular 4-2 stack that you're going to see a ton of, not because I said it, because of DraftKings and how they put it. Other route, if you don't want to go there, will be the fullbacks. Both are cheap. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is always my favorite over Luke Shaw. I just think he's a better player. But since all of my hatred towards Luke Shaw, I've been saying on this show, Luke Shaw has shown up with 8.6 DK last game and 10.5 versus Bournemouth. So there you go. I given Luke Shaw enough crap, and he starts outscoring Aaron Wan-Bissaka. But I do prefer Wan-Bissaka over Shaw. But these are coin flips. I think Wan-Bissaka is a little bit better, but he's a little bit more expensive. He's 1,000 more. The other big decision will be, do you want to play David De Gea? So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more with game scripting, but just like anything, when you have David, like any goalie, especially a favorite goalie, so much is going to depend on if they get the opportunities for shots. And I do still think that United can sometimes overcommit in attack and is going to allow a few shots. So David De Gea is not like the Ederson thing where Southampton was never going to see the ball. So, the one shot that Ederson faces, he has to save, or if he concedes like he did for Southampton, like he's just completely screwed because he never sees any other action. United is a little bit more reckless in their attack, has a little bit more problems at the back line than City does. So I do think that if you play David De Gea, who also is underpriced at 6,800, that there is upside there. I'll just point this out again. If you think, let's say that United only wins like 2-0, and you think Bruno scores one goal and Rashford scores the other, taking a David De Gea instead of a Mason Greenwood or a Tony Martial, more than likely is going to let you equal that. So like if David De Gea wins 2-0 and Greenwood doesn't score, chances are David De Gea is going to outscore Mason Greenwood, right? Because he's going to get 5 points for the win, 5+ points for the clean sheet, and then let's say 2 saves, that's 14 DK. So he scored your goal, and he's scored it for $3,000 less that you can reinvest in your lineup. So I think David De Gea is going to be insanely popular in the showdown of the month. You can do things like maybe captain David De Gea. If nobody scores over a goal, a captain David De Gea point per dollar might be worth it. And so let you get Bruno, Rashford, Greenwood, maybe even Pogba. I haven't played with it. I'm not going to play with it. I don't want to accidentally give out like the $25,000 line and then not use it myself. Like, anyhow, I think that covers United well. Other route you can go just to change it up is like a Harry Maguire goal. So maybe correlate Bruno Fernandes, Harry Maguire, David De Gea, Luke Shaw. Like just do like a full United 1-0 stack that the goal comes from Harry Maguire's big head from a Bruno Fernandes corner, and then all the clean sheets. Hey, there's a potential $25,000 line. Let's talk about Southampton. I think the one guy that you decide on right away is James Ward-Prowse. He takes all of Southampton's sets and honestly has a better floor than Rashford or Greenwood. The issue becomes is how do you see this game playing out? If you really feel that Southampton's a true plus 823 dog, I don't think that you really consider James Ward-Prowse. How many corners do you think is going to happen? How much football do you think you're going to have that Southampton's going to have? And that's going to decide what you feel about James Ward-Prowse. I'm more apt that at that price tag because he is 8,400, meaning I'm going to have to choose him over a Rashford or a Greenwood or a United defender or a Pogba, right? Like this isn't like just a square decision. You don't go, oh, do I like James Ward-Prowse? I can like James Ward-Prowse, but still go, I don't want to give up my United piece that I think has a lot more upside. I don't want to give away the potential Rashford goal or the potential Greenwood goal or the potential Pogba goal and assist, like that type of thing. So you really need to play with builds and decide how you feel about Ward-Prowse's floor. I think it's really interesting to point out with Southampton having like none of the ball versus City outside the goal. James Ward-Prowse still showed up with 18.2 floor points. He had 17 floor points versus Everton, 24.1 versus Watford. That included a goal, so about 12 floor, 14.8 versus Arsenal, and 20.6 versus Norwich. That is because he is on all of Southampton's sets. So while I kind of detailed one cash build when I was over United, the true decision I think in cash is, do you think Ward-Prowse can score a goal on his floor? And if that's the case, could he also exceed that with a goal or assist? These are the tough decisions, but I think he is very, very, very much in play, especially with the set monopoly. Danny Ings and Shane Long, I think, are just pure GPP plays at this point. But Danny Ings, I would love to say like Danny Ings is like a great pivot to go in GPP, with a lot of people stacking United, but I think he might go over owned. So maybe the decision actually becomes, if you get a little too United heavy, to maybe fade like a 30% Ings versus the field and become more United heavy. The other option is if you really do like Ings and you're multi-entering, maybe like using him like in a captain spot where he's not going to be highly owned. Like Bruno Fernandes is going to be like 40 to 50% captain. In cash for sure, and I think even in GPP. Stuart Armstrong's been great for the club out wide. He had the assist versus City. And then just trying to pull him up real quick. And then another assist versus Everton. So 2 straight games of double digits because of the assist. But I think he's a good player. Redmond, GPP. And then the fullbacks, I don't think they're going to have a lot of room to bomb for dealing with Rashford and Greenwood. So I think they're both fades in cash for me from a offensive standpoint. Walker Peters gets a few build because of his price that he works. I guess Bertrand at 4,800 probably fits some too. Alex McCarthy's not going to go very highly owned because so many people are going to be sucking United. So I think he'll come in at the third of the ownership of David De Gea. So it makes it a very interesting play. Finally, we're just going to talk about, just some game scripting. So, I already talked about like a 2-0 United, definitely trying to work in David De Gea and just picking out who your 2 goals are. Same deal on like almost any scoreline that involves a 0 spot. I think that you will want to have David De Gea because that is a goal that he will score. If you think it's just a true onslaught, right? If you think it's 5-0, well, now that's the type of scoreline that you might have to fade David De Gea, because if it's 5-0, you probably want to fit at least 3 of these guys in here, and you might struggle to do that with David De Gea, except for if you change up your captain. And I do think that's something I've kind of toyed around with a little bit, like on City sites and I thought this weekend was a good example versus Brighton. City won, was it 5-0 or 6-0? And Kevin De Bruyne had no involvement in the goals. He still had a fine 4 game, but you had to have Sterling and Jesus. And then Mahrez also scored. So all of them outscored KDB, who was much more expensive than all of them. So, could that be a situation with Bruno Fernandes, right, where he has a fine 4 game? Let's say he has 13 DK, but he gets no goals or assists. And Rashford, Martial, and Greenwood all show up with the goals. So if you play those 3, you get the goals or the assists, and all the assists come from each other, and you fade Fernandes, and let's say that you also pick up Pogba's assists, now you're cooking. And, that's going to be the type of thinking and the building that you're going to have to do in this $25,000 to first contest in order to be different. Because just keep in mind, if you have a line that zeroes out and like you go, oh, I love this, just understand there's going to be a lot of other people that love that lineup too. And all the equity in these top-heavy GPPs is up top. So, yeah, still play that line, right? Because if it splits and it is the true takedown, like you want to have it. But if you really want to, if you're going to enter 10 shots in there, you're going to start looking at leaving extra cap, going different captains, going different ways to stack up. Like if you truly think United is just going to roll, which I do think so. I think they're that good right now. How are you going to make that lineup different? The great thing if you're doing, 10 lineups, you got to put one hedge in that you're just completely and utterly wrong. And that United loses 1-0. So in a 1-0 scoreline, you 100% want Alex McCarthy because he will go nuts. He could have 8-9 saves, score 2 goals on his own. So you would want McCarthy. Hell, you could put him at captain if you think that they're 1-0. And you still, at that point, would want at least 4 United pieces. You want to find out the 1 goal for Southampton. Maybe it's James Ward-Prowse on a PK, although he missed a PK last week. So is he still going to be on it? Or maybe Danny Ings, the goal scorer, and then you will fade Anthony Martial because Anthony Martial is only going to get there with the goal. Bruno Fernandes would be a lock. You're probably going to play like a Pogba, Rashford. Hell, at that point, you probably have enough room for Greenwood. So you just want this like full United onslaught. You want to try to pick the 1 goal from Southampton and then let McCarthy stand on his head and win you a GPP. So that's all I've got today. I want to thank you guys once again so much for watching these videos. Hope that you guys do well today, and I will see you tomorrow for more soccer. Take it easy.